I actually was a geologist here in Kansas, went to Fort Hays, came back here, practiced in a 50-mile radius of Plainville. And then subsequent to that, I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more, I guess, creative, a little bit more interesting. So I took this kind of risk and decided to start this business. And originally we had it headquartered in Los Angeles. And then about 3 or 4 years after we started, it really became difficult for me to kind of manage those operations and continue to live in Kansas because of just travel. I was constantly on the road. So at a certain point, I decided that I needed to think about what were my options. One was I could sell the business, or two, I could figure out some way to make it work for me here in Kansas so that I could continue to stay, because our kids, this is our home and this is where we grew up, and we just didn't want to leave. So I actually met a gentleman who agreed to come and work with us, and the goal is to see how much we could bring back to Kansas to be able to actually do here. And over a period of several years, we literally brought everything back except for the actual manufacturing. So here in Plainville, we do all legal, accounting, marketing, customer service, design, anything associated with the business administratively gets done here. And then over the years, we've also brought warehousing, is all done here. So we import all over the world back into Plainville, Kansas. And we've been able to really adapt a rural setting for our business, and really it's far more, I guess, beneficial for us to have it here than it's ever been to have it in any of the other locations. And then of course what really made it possible for us to have it here in Kansas, in Plainville, is technology. I mean, having internet, high speed, everything. We have the best of everything here. We have our ability to be able to transact business is far more efficient here than it is, I think, in Los Angeles, or for that matter, in Chicago or New York, where you would think that they'd have the best technology, and in fact they don't. So as a result of that, we've just continued to grow the business here, except for those parts that we really can't facilitate here. So it's just worked, and so over the years we went from 2 people here in Plainville to 78, and as a result of that, we've also been able to do things like remodel old buildings for offices and create environments for work that are a little bit different than what you'd see even in cities. Most people come here and they see this and they say, well, I didn't expect to find this in Plainville, Kansas, and it's not that the people who did this are from Plainville, Kansas. It's just that this is a creative business and we do things in a creative manner. So, well, in '93, I mean, internet was just a beginning phenomena at that point in time. Nobody really understood it. We dealt with photocopies and fax machines and telephone, and that has evolved to the point where we do so much with the internet, so much. We communicate all over the world, and you can do it at any time of the day, as opposed to and wait for a response. When we first started, that wasn't the case. You had to call, or you had to send I can't even remember, telex, I think is what it was called back then, where you would type it in and you'd send it and you'd wait for a response. Well, everything's done just spontaneously now as a result of the internet and the communication improvements that have occurred. So, like this morning, I was emailing with a gentleman in China, that we have a joint venture that we're working with. He's actually from the UK, but he's traveling in China right now. And it's just kind of amazing to sit there and think that, well, there was first of all a huge times difference, but then likewise, I'm able to communicate with him right then about a very specific topic that needed to be dealt with right then, and I could do that just as quickly here in Plainville, Kansas as I can in any major city. You can be a business just about anywhere, and if you've focused your business on something which has some real interest to it, and it's not just a cookie cutter. I mean, like competing with a major white box store would be probably a mistake. But you can put your products on the internet. You can create lots of interest in your products, and you can be anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter where you're at, but that all takes technology. And You know, the other day we were in fact looking, a friend of ours, I was in New York, and he was buying an antique, and it was actually in Amsterdam, and he was communicating with he was looking at the antique on the screen, and the guy was moving it around, and you know, they're talking, and it's like, I just can't believe this stuff goes on anymore. But you know, it does happen. The internet has helped me the most, mainly because I can talk and visit with anybody anywhere. And a lot of times I used to have to get on a plane, and that really got old. I mean, it still gets old because the airline industry has changed so much. But we can have a conference call here, everybody get on, talk. You know, it's not always easy to look at something specifically because it may not be able to see things as exactly as looking at it right in front of you. But if you have to do things on a preliminary, I mean, we just did a showroom in New York. Everything was done via an iPad tablet, walking around taking photos, or and saying, this is what they did today. And I said, and I would be talking to him saying, could you look down at the radiator a little bit more so I can see what they did? Well, you would have had to go see, I would have had to go fly out there. So I'd probably say that's helped me the most. I'm from here originally, and this is my home. And I travel a lot of places, a lot. And I really have never found a place that I like as well as my home. And but what I do like is when I get to travel, I see things that are just interesting. They're interesting concepts, and I see them, and I think, well, why couldn't that work in Western Kansas? And I guess ignorance is bliss sometimes. But on the other hand, it's not that it can't work. Nobody's just tried to make it work. So a lot of those things, we've come back and you say, well, why can't we have this here? Why can't we do this? Well, in addition to that, we were fortunate that we kind of got involved in kind of the development end of this by accident. When we moved here, we needed a building. Obviously, we were design oriented. We started redesigning we found them to be interesting environments. When people would see them, they would say, oh my God, I mean, how did you think it? Well, most of it was here. All we did was just kind of cut it into squares. And so it really was, it's fun to be able to do that. And so, I looked at where we lived, and likewise at Hayes, I went to Fort Hays State, that's my alma mater, and you see all these college campuses, they don't have the assets that Hayes has or Plainville has, and it's amazing what they've done. So it was just simply looking at what we had and saying, I don't know why we can't do that here. And it's taken a long time because it involves a long time. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of things to make those things happen. But there was, for the same reason that I think we develop new products out of passion and an interest. There's a passion and an interest in seeing that develop and that occur. So over time, I think being able to see the buildings change and seeing how people do respond to them and start seeing people walking up and down the streets, it does refresh in your mind when you were a kid. And the big thing for us was we'd get in the car and we'd go to Hayes for the day. It was on a Saturday, and you'd walk up and down Main Street, and that was a big deal. Well, now you're seeing people doing the same thing, and it really brings home a sense of, home that you may have forgotten about. So in addition to that, I love doing the buildings. I love being able to see what that does and the impact it has on people. And I think it's been a positive one. It's really gratifying because this is where I come from, and we frequently have people from all over the world come here. And I'm not saying that to boast or anything, but we deal with mills in 10 European countries. We had 2 English companies that recently located 4 years ago, one to Thailand and one to Bangalore. So they fly into here, and they no longer look at Kansas in the same light. They come here thinking that we're in the hinterland, and they leave thinking, oh my God, now I know why they live there. And it's nice for them to be able to see that, because they see the same things here that they see in any city. It's just that I can walk across the street and don't get honked at by 40 cars, or at least they wave at me honking. And I'm safe. I leave my keys in the car. They just can't quite adapt to that. Now we have a young lady just joined us, Betty Tuva, who joined us where Billy is sitting. She moved here from Kenya, and She's a textile designer, and we found her through the University of Philadelphia. She worked for us for 3 years. She left and moved to Thailand, worked for 4 years there, and she just recently came back and joined us here. Well, you know, it's not moving to the, out to the, boondocks. It's now, this is a real place to be, and we had another lady who is just joining us, who lives in New York. She'll be coming here more frequently, but she's amazed by what we have here. It's not at all what they thought. They just have a completely different perspective.
Running water there?
Oh yeah, I mean, they just, and what's bizarre is in New York we have horrible internet service, horrible. And here we're in New York City, and we run circles around them. I mean, they don't have anything. LA is horrible. You can't believe how bad the internet service is. And of course, here we are in Plainville, Kansas, and we can do 10 times that's what they can do. It's really kind of fun. But we likewise have things here that they don't have.
Get away from the technology backwater of LA.
Yeah, I was telling Tracy the other day when I was in New York, I said, I can text my doctor, and she can get my symptoms because, I mean, literally, that's what technology has done for us. We have a hospital out here that is as high-tech. Well, it's not probably as high-tech as Hayes Med, because Hayes Med's really high-tech, but and they're more specialized. But in terms of being able to do medicine and telemedicine and being able to communicate with your doctor and do it at the drop of a hat, they don't even know what they. I told my business partner in LA that I just, I have a patient portal, and I'll email my doctor and say, this is what's wrong. And she'll email me back, and I'll call her and tell her what's going on. And he said, and do they respond? And I said, well, yeah, they respond. I mean, it's a patient portal. And he goes, well, what's a patient portal? And I said, well, it's a site that you can go to that's private, the doctors have. Now you have an account, you go log into your account, and they can give you lab results. They can tell you what's going on, Yeah. In fact, I was in New York, got this cold. I emailed my doctor. She located the Walgreens on 59th Street where she sent me a prescription.
You just go pick it up?
And I went and picked it up. Now that's technology. That makes life easy.
That's good.
Yeah. We, of course, started with the downtown, and that was, again, it was really started as a labor of love. We wanted to open a retail division, which was CS Post. We wanted it to be in that kind of environment. And the main reason is because, when we go to the cities years ago, I started noticing that there was so much, gentrification of old areas occurring, where they were going back into them and really creating these wonderful spots. And you looked at the downtown Hayes, and it was just filled with great buildings, history, architecture, all kinds of things. So we started acquiring the buildings, and one of the things that we realized right away was, to really get that foot traffic going in, you have to be able to have foot traffic, and you have to have people want to go there for more than just shopping on weekends. So obviously food and entertainment is a key driver. We put together an idea for Gellas and Liquid Bread Brewing. 60 local investors in Hayes participate in that. It's been a long battle, but it's been a wonderful one. It's really created foot traffic in downtown Hayes. Likewise, there were existing businesses already in Hayes that really kept the downtown going, that it just added more to that. And then new businesses have come into play who enjoy that kind of retail environment as well. Now, the next step, we are constantly looking for other food ventures to come in downtown because, again, that's what always drives foot traffic. And hopefully we'll be able to do some here in the not too distant future. But in addition to that, one of the big goals was to really do something from a lodging standpoint that was very unique and different. And so we worked with a firm that's actually a client of ours, architecture firm, and asked them to help us develop a concept for a boutique hotel in downtown Hayes. And part of what I wanted to do was not only give people an experience of a hotel in downtown Hayes, but also a unique architectural experience consistent with the area. And then likewise, is there any way to take advantage of the assets we had there, which was the 2-story buildings? Because the one thing that's always hard is if you have retail on the first floor and you have apartments on the second floor, there's noise and during the day, and maybe there's noise going up and noise going down. It goes both ways. So we came up with the idea to use the second floors of all those buildings will be actually loft hotel rooms, which will be larger, They'll allow for an extended stay. And then the main hotel building, which will be built in right there on the corner, will have 48 rooms and total of 60 rooms in downtown. And so the concept has finally come full circle in terms of development. We have the idea, we have the what it will look like, and now we're in the process of putting together funding. And we've worked with lots of consultants that specialize in boutique hotels in downtowns to make sure that we're making the right moves, and it's now in the formative stages of funding. So we're very excited about that. And then I'm hoping that in addition to that, we'll have a little breakfast cafe there. We'd like other little specialty kind of restaurants to come in, and we're open to all of them. And we'd love to get more of them all the time. We're constantly looking for them.
What intersection are we talking here?
It's right at where the main hotel building will be. Well, I actually have some pictures. You want to see them?
Sure.
Okay. Here, let me show you. This is actually a black and white, and this building, if you were standing on this corner, this is the library. So Emprise Bank is right over here.
Caddy corner across.
Yeah, caddy corner right over here is the library. So this is what is currently now that old bank building that's real dilapidated. It'll be raised, and then this will come out of its existing footprint. Like I said, there's 48 rooms there, and this is what it looks like in color. It's actually kind of interesting to see the concept. And we did it because this is an event center, and that's the old Strand Theater, and it's, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the interior is amazing. It's got these gorgeous ceilings that have been hidden all these years. And so this will connect.
So you could use it for meetings and that type
meetings, events, whatever the case may be. It actually sits 350 people for dinner by code, so it worked perfect. And then, of course, this is the main hotel. There's a pre-gathering space for the event center. Let's say, for instance, if you wanted to have a cocktail hour at the hotel, then you could transfer over to dinner across the street or across the alley, whatever. But it gave a concept of utilizing an existing asset. And what we tried to do here was draw from the local architecture to really kind of create something that is current, but yet doesn't
fit in there.
Yeah. This is, we took elements from grain elevators, we took elements from all kinds of things to really kind of do it, and that's what this came from. Was we had let me show you.
That reminds me of the Wiesner building.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because we used all kinds of these were some of the inspirational forms that we did, which was grain elevators, all different shapes. And as you can see, it kind of ties into that kind of theme. So we haven't made a name for it yet, but it's we just put Hayes Hotel because if you notice there's a round window. We had to pull that round window in somehow.
Cool.
So it will have hotel there, but it just needs to, this is the next step. I love this business and I love what we do, and it's been great being able to do it in my hometown and actually do a better job than if we were in major cities. Lots of colors based on kind of a historical inspiration, but then we adapt it to what we want, and this is what it's become. This is the company that we bought in 2005, which is Rose Cumming. She was the first the first three female decorators, actually first decorators in the country. They actually developed the whole industry of interior design, and this is all hand painted by hand. On tea paper, which this is tea paper, and the reason why it's tea paper, this was the maximum width the Chinese could actually create when they were making paper. So they would seam it, and a lot of people look at it and say, well, it actually costs more to do this than if you just run it straight. But back in those days, this was the maximum size they could create paper in. So they would do these panels, and then they would do everything in watercolor, and this is all done in watercolor. All by hand. If you look at the birds, the detail on them is just unbelievable. And then this was in her music room in New York. And so we took the design and then reinterpreted it, created repeats, and then turned it into a wallpaper.
And there's how many panels to make this a
There's
whole scene?
8. There's 8 total panels.
Number 3. So there's a whole scene.
Oh my.
But what we do is typically somebody will bring us a room, and they have an elevation where they show actual windows, doors, dimensions, everything. And then these artists paint these trees around those doors
around the room.
so that you don't cut out a big piece of the tree. So
Nothing missing.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You can have these done in any size, any number of repeats. You can have 40 of them made, you can have 5 made, you can have them 14 feet, 10 feet, 9 feet.
These artists are where?
Well, these are all in the same village in China that they were in the 17th century when they started doing chinoiserie. It's the same village doing the same thing they've done for all those years. This is like this is a velvet that's actually produced in outside of Milan, and it's 2 young men. This is 100% silk, and what's amazing about this is that they have woven in a solid fabric you see this jacquard pattern? Mm-hmm. Well, it puckers as they weave it because there's more tension on these white yarns, but they pucker it such that it creates a pattern which is tonal. And this hasn't been done in 200 years. And these guys have pulled it off. I bought this at an auction in New York, and it was embroidery. It's silk on cotton. Wow. And from that, we developed this embroidery that's all done by hand too. This is done in Bangalore, and you couldn't get this done anywhere in the world. And we found people there who'll do it.
Wow.
Look at the amount of time and labor in that.
Oh, I just can't imagine.
Look at the colors.
Oh.
This is a really, really special piece of fabric. This one's from 1726. And it's 27 inches wide. These are all done on what are called shuttle looms, where they throw these shuttles back and forth. It's all silk, and it's a cut and loop. You see the tiny little loops in there?
Yes.
They're so fine, it's unbelievable. This is also what's called a strié. See the colors? See the color variation?
Yes.
So that's called a strié. It's a cut and loop, and it's a jacquard. So it's everything all in one ball of wax. And they quit making this because they no longer have the looms.
So where were they? Is that a European?
This is Italian.
Italian.
This is the Italian version that we had done by these same 2 guys. It's all cut and loop, strié, all silk. 100% silk.
That's awesome.
And then this is our latest.
So where are they located?
These guys are in Italy, outside of Milan.
Okay.
This one is made. This is woven outside of Florence, and this is the velvet that we weave. Then we send this actually to Thailand, and they hand block this with 9-inch blocks. So they take these blocks that are carved out of wood,
Right.
and the wood has either felt, wood, or copper wires, and they create the patterns. And the more fine the pattern is, the more dense the material. So it could be copper if it's really, really fine. Like take, for instance, these lines here are copper wires. But what they do is, it's a series of blocks. Each one's no more than 9 inches. That's the maximum that they can do. They take this block, which has a handle on it, that's carved out of wood. They stick it in this metallic ink, and they come back and they stamp it. And they do it over the whole fabric. And it takes them about, to do a yard of this, takes about 4.5 hours. So this is completely done over the whole bolt of fabric. It's very expensive, very time consuming, but this hasn't been done for years. And the only reason it can be done now is because there's people in Thailand who will do it, who will carve the blocks and then actually print with them. They quit doing this in England years and years ago. They took all the old blocks, put them in a pile, and burnt them for firewood.
What's that?
And so these guys are now redoing them. And so this is the first one we come out with.
It's like burning books.
Yeah, it's like burning books. So we did a variety of colorways. This is the black version.
We actually ship and receive it in rolls, so there isn't those creases.
And this has been such a huge, huge hit. I can't tell you.
Oh yeah, and it is an piece of art. It's
Right.
one of a kind. There will be never anything exactly like it.
That's right. Everyone's a piece of art.